Capcom has been gaming's greatest comeback kid in recent years. Their Grand Slammer releases continued rocketing into orbit with Resident Evil 4 Remake. This marriage of Resident Evil 2's puzzles with Resident Evil 3's action emphasis created the perfect blend of cerebral and dexterous strain. A stressful atmosphere amplified by a modern spin dialing back camp for intense horror. The serious tone gives more gravitas to the characters, particularly Ashley. She's less bratty caricature and more relatable, compelling, and competent. This allows Leon's escort mission to feel like a growing partnership, putting their bond at the forefront. Though Leon's one-liners are more selectively chosen, his grave attention to the mission conveys the severity of the danger they face. A perilous journey that reaches its apex against the best bosses in the series without question, and it's not remotely close. Today, I'll be ranking this remarkable roster from best to bestest. Our worst of the best is the beast from underneath, Del Lago. Dodge debris by tilting the joystick while hoisting harpoons into zombie dick. Aiming is like drawing a bowstring. You get farther, more accurate shots the longer you pause. The key is leading the projectiles for optimal skewering. This is easier said than done thanks to harsh turns and ambiguously placed junk mauling your boat, which is a fancy way to say I fed Leon a healthy diet of debris. He'll do you a favor and stop periodically, surfacing far away after a tension-building reprieve, then rapidly closing in. You're given generous time to 360 no-scope, preventing your imminent demise. They really appreciate the cinematic style, unique combat mechanics, and intuitive design. Unfortunately, his simplicity is too slow to catch the competition. Maybe if Del Lago wasn't snacking before the main course, he'd be more nimble. His loss. For Kennedy looking like a whole snack. If you want tasty morsels delivering themselves to your waters, today's sponsor Factor is here to help. Factor provides a range of 27+ weekly meal options to your doorstep, including keto, calorie smart, vegetarian, and vegan options. If you're petite like the salacious Salazar, opt for as few as 4 weekly meals, or if you're a beefcake like Mr. Kennedy, bulk up with up to 18 each week. It's a lifesaver having chef-quality meals within minutes. I'm highly allergic to time spent in the kitchen. Before I tried Factor, opting for an unhealthy snack and delivery was all too common. Now I have perfect fits for a healthy diet, ready with speed to rival how fast OG Ashley got on our nerves.
Don't just stand there! Help me!
To get some of these delicious meals in your sandy cheeks, use my link or go to go.factor75.com and use code POGDMMA40 for 40% off plus 20% off your next month. Once you click, my description will live update to count up the purchases. Our next entry in a totally not linear list is El Gigante, a boss that asks, how do you avoid behemoth blows without a dodge button? The answer is quick turns, sprinting where the sun don't shine, or darting away at a perpendicular angle. Early on, without high comfort in Leon's tanky movement, I got a healthy dose of fisting, especially when I tried the new knife parry, an ill-advised strategy against something so large. Thankfully, your need to evade is mitigated by a heroic furry friend. The lion and the mouse fable taught us well, as saving the bear-trapped wolf has him come to your aid, distracting Gigante. After enough damage, the parasite within reveals itself for some slice and dice action. He takes a considerable amount of punishment to defeat, which directly rewards or penalizes how well you've managed your resources early on. It's an enjoyable fight that seriously escalates the stakes of what monstrosities you'll be facing. What's better than Uno Gigantes? Dos Gigantes. Taking place far later in the campaign, it's an excellent measure of your progress. That rain of bullets required to best our previous battle becomes a paltry handful of shots with your upgraded arsenal. You'll make mincemeat of the unarmored giant, leaving you to show off your improved dodge skills against the metal mammoth. I love the dynamite play, asking you to strategically bait him into position and pull off a cheeky explosive shot, and though you can likely kill him with sheer damage, the Terminator 2 lava bath is such a satisfying end. Duos can be tough to get right, but through solid mechanics, an upgraded kit, and getting by with a little help from your friends, Dos Gigantes edges out the mano-a-mano brawl. Number 8, Jack Krauser. Have you ever seen speedrunners shank their way through Resident Evil 2 Remake? That's Jack Krauser's battle in a nutshell. That is if he and Leon were shonen anime swordsmen compacted into knife skills. This fight is made leagues better than the original through parrying. With a timely button press, you'll deflect his blow, avoid damage, and get a counter opportunity. You can freely slash during openings, but Krauser frequently leans back out of your range, then leaps in to retaliate. He also mixes in force dodge inputs that prevent you from over-relying on parries alone. On paper, it's extremely simple, but the quick twitch mechanics keep it engaging alongside the over-dramatic exposition dump. I can't help but mention his GI geriatric voice acting. Why did this actor give such a breathy performance? He's breathing between every word and emphasizing them excessively. Even if the performance makes me want to pass him an inhaler, the battle itself is a great appetizer for the rematch to come.
Adam Sandler. What are you doing here?
Waiting for them to play Gangnam Style.
My placement of this salacious maniac feels as sloppy as his battle. Placed on a small bridge relative to the size of this eyeball arachnid, you're tasked with popping peepers to reveal the major weak point. Between awkwardly running around his forgettable attacks to get good angles, and his strange jumps away to do the bug version of a rain dance, I found the first phase underwhelming. The final phase is a set of evade prompts for horizontal tentacles and juking from side to side for vertical slashes. This was pretty fun, but I can't overstate how tanky he felt, putting me down to my last bullet, or in this case, rocket. I saved the RPG all game long in order to not overkill any fights and respectively evaluate what they had to offer. My oversized pile of patas was finally gonna pay dividends, only to get cut off right before it connects for Ada to say, "Here, Leon, use this." Thanks, I really needed the help. Well, if you insist, time to fuck Salazar with my red rocket. It's cinematically neat, and the gravitas of the climax hard carries it higher on this list, but it's a little too cumbersome mechanically to be as enjoyable as the top contenders. Number 6, Gerador. They really dialed up the terror for his entrance. Taking the dark plunge only to be greeted with this beaming hellspawn is nightmare fuel. It perfectly sets the tone for the silent battle to come. His sewn shut eyelids give his major mechanic away, being unable to see. He's instead hypersensitive to sound, unleashing aggressive flurries in the direction of any pin drop. The key is baiting him using sound to get angles on his back parasite. There are numerous ways to do this, which makes the possible strategies quite varied. I appreciate fights with flexibility, enjoy a slow, methodical change of pace from the sweaty action, and love the frightening atmosphere. Before we dive into the top 5, I want to shout out the merciless bounties as honorable mentions. Part of the new side quest system, the merchant rewards you for slaying superpowered variants of an act's scariest foes. First is the merciless Mutt, who spent 90% of the fight hibbity-hopping around before unleashing unique ranged tentacles. Act 2 featured the Gilded Knight and his puppeteered pals. He mixes in faster slashes and a thrust over the normally easy-to-dodge two-handed slam from his lackeys. Flash grenades are your best friend here to melt them once exposed. The final act's bounty is by far the toughest, the Steely Iron Maiden. Rather than having a second phase where it becomes reborn with a single new weak point, it has an absurd amount of them to begin with. That's daunting enough on your limited infrared arsenal, but it's nigh impossible if you manage to prevent the regenerator test tubes from being broken in the earlier battle in this arena. One spinal AoE from the Maiden breaks them all loose, and now you gotta prepare for the game's toughest ambush. While none of these are individually different enough from their standard enemy counterparts, I felt they were worth a shout out as a challenging send-off to each act. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention a glaring absence in the boss roster. U3's Spooky Stalker battle is absent, as is the grounded clash that follows. Certainly a divisive boss, but I personally would have loved to see Remake's take. Maybe they're saving him for the upcoming DLCs. In a tribute to the legendary Elder Scrolls Oblivion Equestrian DLC, El Gigante got an armored upgrade. My barely tangential references aside, you may be wondering why I consider this a boss, let alone far superior to the standard battle. While you can't hit him conventionally, he puts environmental pressure on you through a volley of boulders. You have to rush through the battlements efficiently to evade his siege. The level design here is superb, with well-paced action on the heels of enemies assaulting you, but not to excessive levels like in the Villa COD Zombie Fiesta. It strikes the perfect balance of rushing to get you away from the boulder spam while needing to be careful to not poorly position yourself against the hordes. Your reward for reaching the end is a satisfying barrage of your own to blow them away. While the fight lacks traditional battle mechanics, the obstacle provided shapes brilliantly around the battlement maze of puzzles and sneak attacks. It highlights my favorite elements of the game while putting a boss caliber pressure on the player. Number 4, Bitores Mendes. One of the game's greatest upgrades, Mendes' fight benefits greatly from enhanced lighting, clearer tells, and mobile aim. His move pool is wider than most bosses, mixing in different moves based on which level you're on. Some require evasion inputs, others can be parried, while the rest require running away, even to the opposite level. His speed is quite punishing, requiring you to react quickly with the proper response. Mixed in with his beefy health, it's quite the battle of attrition. I do wonder what it'd be like if Resident Evil 4 Remake had God of War's Juke or Bloodborne's Quickstep. Leon is doling out roundhouses like clockwork, so I'm sure he could handle a bunny hop forward. Even without it, I have to pay respect to a wide move pool that has clear responses within the game's limits. The first phase introduces you well to the mechanics and where your damage openings are within. Enough punishment lets you stab his eye, though this was inconsistent as I dished out enough damage in my first attempt to skip this entirely. The second phase is more erratic, mixing in a volley of tosses to sprint from, a cross-toss shakeup requiring you to stay put, and eventually fistfuls of red barrels to blow on him. Where it gets tricky is between this, he leaps forward with that mix of parry, evasion, and prompt-based requirements. It's a give and take between the ease of dodging at range, but slowly whittling away, versus easier close-up opportunities that demand difficult defense. It's an incredibly well-executed spectacle, and although I feel a proper dodge would have done this fight wonders, I enjoyed it for what it was immensely. If there's any single fight that nails the horror aspect, it's Verdugo. Major xenomorph vibes with a killer stalking you through a vent makes your blood pressure spike as chills run down your spine from the stellar sound design. Hearing the pitter-patter of its steps without line of sight keeps you guessing and panicking, while you respect sudden tail swipes to evade. Once he corners you in the farthest end of the underground complex, this continues, but he'll now leap out and give chase. He does various melee attacks, mostly utilizing his tail for considerable range. You can parry most of this and evade prompt what you can. While defending against him isn't as tough as someone like Mendes, he makes up for it with astronomical endurance. With limited ammo, landing your shots is crucial. It's difficult to do that with his fast moves and regular attacks, making the liquid nitrogen showers key. If you bait him into one properly, he'll slow down dramatically for a while, making him an easy target. That's a big if though. It requires tight timing and clever baiting, showcasing excellent AI. Even with all the showers used perfectly, he still soaked up over a dozen shotgun shells, 30 auto rifle shots, my entire pistol and submachine gun reserves, on top of a healthy helping of roundhouse. If it weren't for the sole heavy grenade I found finishing the jobs, those kicks would have been my last line of offense. Keep in mind you can one-shot him with a liquid nitrogen bath and an RPG cocktail, or run around for 4 minutes until the elevator arrives without committing to the kill, but where's the fun in that? This battle's spectacular atmosphere deserves to be experienced in its full glory, an experience well worth a top 3 nod. Number 2, Ramon Salazar. Winner of the Remake's biggest glow-up, everyone's favorite dwarven doofus has blossomed from a wilting wallflower to a soaring little shop of horrors. With a large arena spanning multiple floors, his quick zips around mixed in with ranged offense and bomb drops create quite the hazard. The majority of his attacks make use of these two strengths, distancing himself and charging toxic spit you need to respond to by evading rather than shooting. Even trickier is the protective bulb, making the timing of your attacks more crucial to when he exposes himself. He can even trick you by coming in close, thinking you have the perfect opening, then unleashing an instant kill chomp. The actual boon is hitting enough shots to drop him for a substantial attack window. It gives the fight a frantic pacing with a rewarding payoff. The chaotic energy is amplified by the outrageous dialogue and incredible score. But if I had to pinpoint a single favorite element, it's how Salazar pays respect to player ingenuity. He was commonly a repository for RPGs in the original, deleting him immediately. In Remake, you can make use of a little-known lore fact: Salazar is deathly allergic to eggs. With a silver spoon lodged far up his sassy behind, only golden eggs make the most of this weakness. The game has only 2 of these in the entire campaign, which is just enough to instantly scramble Salazar. Though even a single shiny sunny side up splash devastates him to the point a follow-up rifle spray finishes the job. Off-the-wall strategies like this are downright hilarious and create unbelievable tips players can share with one another for a hearty laugh. With the incredible battle to match, Salazar easily poached the number 2 spot. And my choice for the number 1 best boss in Resident Evil 4 Remake, Jack Krauser. Krauser's obsession with Leon, characterized by his love nest you stumble upon, is a perfect lead into this encounter. It's an excellent showcase of guerrilla tactics, creating an ever-evolving battle. He begins by channeling his inner Obi-Wan Kenobi and gives you a lesson in the high ground. Unfortunately for him, I went to the school of Tank and Spank, eating bullets for breakfast and dishing it back tenfold. Bested by my brilliant strategy, he drops to my level and zooms around like a capoeira master. Landing shots and knife blows become significantly harder as a result, forcing you to make the most of demanding parry timing and evasion prompts. After enough punishment, he leaves you to his minefield of traps. He'll sometimes pop in to say a sharp hello, which you can counter for a punish if well timed. Following your escape, you enter a funneled path with Krauser noob tubing from the exit. Making clever use of cover, the shots will be absorbed, allowing skilled players to follow up with quick shots. Him leaving may seem beneficial until he drops a gift bag of grenades at the finish line. This whole cat and mouse chase leads to round 2, where the zoomies become even more prevalent. Tire him out, and he'll reveal his mutated arms for the final showdown. His blade arm can be deflected, while the other grabs you, requiring a backpedal. It's a great tandem of mechanics that encourage you to balance counter tactics up close and positioning so you don't get grabbed. The blade arm can even work as a shield, forcing you to really earn these damage opportunities. His last-ditch effort to best you is a leap above, followed shortly by a slam down. The only way I could tell to evade this was changing your elevation between the 2 levels. Without a doubt, Krauser's battle is the most mechanically rich, has a natural progression with tight pacing, enjoyable shakeups, and clearly defined rules, and captures great tension throughout with the banter between Krauser and Leon. It brings the heat in terms of action, but also demands quick thinking to respond to Krauser's tactical strategies. It's everything I love about Resident Evil 4 Remake wrapped into one satisfying battle, my choice for the game's best. But of course, that's just my opinion. Let us know your worst and best in the comments below. Leave a like to let me know you want more boss rankings. Currently splitting duty between Jedi Survivor and Tears of the Kingdom to join in on the fun. Thanks for watching today, much love to you, and I'll see you in the next video.